I love the anticipation of waiting to make sure that a live stream actually goes live. But hi, I'm Caleb Giddings from Gun Nuts Media, and I'm here today with
Annette Evans of Beauty Behind the Blast and Race Street Range.
And we're both wearing t-shirts from holster manufacturers that people would think are competitors, but Tom and John are both friends and they know each other.
And they recommend each other's gear.
It's this... Our little tiny niche of the firearms industry is so weird because all of our friends are friends. And, you know, again, like Tom and John could be like, no, fuck that guy. Like they make, I'm going to go ahead and say it. They make very similar products.
They do.
They both make, in my opinion, the best Kydex holsters on the market for appendix carry. And if someone comes to me and says, Caleb, what should I get? A Dark Star Gear or a Philster? I'm going to be like, well, take this coin.
Go for it.
And go with God. So Annette, what brings you to Miami?
Oh, I was just coming from TACCon in New Orleans.
What's TACCon for the people who have no fucking idea what you're talking about?
So TACCon is the Rangemaster Tactical Conference, and we get together with a whole bunch of trainers and enthusiasts across the country, and we spend 3 days doing 2 to 4 hour blocks of live fire, of classroom work on all sorts of things relating to guns and self-defense. And we shoot a little match and we have lots of fun together. And this year for the first time, we're in New Orleans. It's actually my first TACCon. And it was really fun to be in New Orleans because I stayed a couple extra days and, you know, wandered Bourbon Street and sat on the Mississippi River. And
you weren't killed by ninjas.
I was not only not killed by ninjas, I was not killed by ninjas during a neighborhood party.
That's impressive. If you haven't been to New Orleans and seen a neighborhood party, it's a sight to behold, to say the least.
And it was St. Joseph's Day, which is one of their big feast parties.
Really?
So basically they do Mardi Gras.
Right.
They do St. Joseph's Day.
Interesting.
And Super Sunday.
Well, obviously Super Sunday.
Yeah.
Wait, Super Sunday is in the Super Bowl or like some religious
as in
Super Sunday?
Like before St. Patrick's Day or for St. Patrick's Day, they also do St. Patrick's Day stuff.
Well, obviously.
But St. Joseph's is like one of the biggest like neighborhood party things. And I was staying in the neighborhood where that's like the thing.
So,
and I didn't die.
Interesting how you didn't die. This is something that she and I were talking about offline before this, is that the more practiced you get in self-defense, combat arts, martial arts, whatever you want to call it, the more aware you get of how dangerous the world is, but also the less dangerous the world becomes. Because I would say that if you take someone, and we're going to create a fictional person named Tim. And Tim has been to Gunsight. He's got a Gunsight 250, and he's been to ECQC.
Mm-hmm.
Tim is now, in my opinion, equipped to solve 99% of the self-defense encounters that the average human being is going to get thrown at him. Yep. Like if you get that 1% curveball encounter, okay, Tim's fucked. But with a Gunsight 250 and ECQC, like, Hominis Dominus, go with God. And Tim's perception of the world is that it is a dangerous place, but that also he can recognize that danger before it happens. So when you were walking around Nolans, did you feel unsafe at any time?
No. I mean, there were some folks where I'm like, wow, I don't really want to walk right next to you.
Mm-hmm.
I might want to either, you know, kind of ignore you or really, you know, like pre-muck. Right. I'm not necessarily engaging in you, but I'm kind of doing like the RBF, or I'm looking past you, or I'm giving you the eye contact depending on who you are. But I didn't feel like anybody was going to like,
Right, exactly. Give me your money.
Nope.
When it's interesting, because obviously I live in Miami, and I pre-muck and muck people almost every day when I'm walking the dog. And I'll use an example like last night, and I don't feel unsafe walking around Miami at all. Last night I was walking the dog, and a dude walked out of kind of a less than awesome apartment building behind me. It was raining. He wasn't really wearing appropriate rain gear, and he maintained a consistent pace about 5 yards behind me. That made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I was like, I don't like any of this. So I turned into an alley where I could see what was in the alley, and then just waited for him to walk past. And he walked right past me. He made eye contact with me as he walked past me. And it was almost that like, I know what you're doing and you know what I'm doing. So I'm going to go find somebody who doesn't know what I'm doing and go hit that person. And I was like, and that's my night. And at no point did I feel unsafe At no point did I feel in danger because I knew that if he had turned down that alley, his life would have taken a really bad, his day would have gone into a really poor direction for him, starting with lumens and,
Right.
ending wherever he decided it was going to end. And that's one of the things that I'm glad you're here, because you and I live in this rarefied world where, they talk about, you see all this branding for like concealed carry as a lifestyle. So what does that really mean? Like, what's a concealed carry lifestyle mean to you? Because I don't fucking know. I don't know what that means. The cat's not here, Randy, because we're in Miami.
The cat's in Philadelphia. So it's interesting. People talk about the concealed carry lifestyle as it's any different from life.
Right.
Like, to me, my concealed carry lifestyle is I live my regular life and I happen to bring a gun with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the gun allows me to solve certain problems in a way that other tools don't.
Mm-hmm.
But, frankly, like if I go to New Jersey, and I live in Philly, I go to Jersey, like you can't avoid it.
I'm sorry.
I know, but like some of the really good shows are out there.
That's fair.
When I'm talking to my family, they're out there too. And, you go to Jersey when you live in Philly, you can't carry a gun there. I know. Legally, you can't carry a gun there. But, my life doesn't change very much when I go to Jersey without a gun.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. I might pay a little more attention because I have lost the standoff of lethal force. But, I can carry pepper spray.
Also, you can strangle people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I can knife them.
Right.
And, everybody loves, shivving another person because...
Because you can't put a tourniquet on a taint. Thanks, Craig. But
it's life with a little more attention.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's kind of the thing is that I think a lot of people get wrapped around this axle of concealed carry to them means, and the reason I dislike the term concealed carry lifestyle is I don't think that the lifestyle that I lead has anything to do with a fucking gun.
No.
I really don't. I think that the lifestyle that I lead has everything to do with acknowledging that the world isn't a great place always, and that sometimes the solution to the world not being a great place is violence, but the best solution to the world not being a great place is to avoid it. And that's kind of when we talk about muck, to translate for people who haven't been to ECQC or EWO or AMOS, it stands for managing unknown contacts. And I guarantee everybody that is watching this video, that will ever watch this video, has at one point had to manage an unknown contact, whether they've been panhandled by a bum or had a weirdo walk up to them at the gas station or even something more aggressive.
I had a dude who, I'm sitting in an airport lounge and, waiting for my ride, and dude decides he has to sit next to me.
That's weird.
And there's, all sorts of empty space everywhere else, but he has to sit right next to me. We've all had something like that.
Super weird.
Yeah.
I've done that with like hot girls that I was going to try to hit on when I was single.
No, it was like some dude on his phone.
That's weird.
It was odd. And you know what I did? I stood up and walked away. That's muck.
Yeah,
like that counts as muck.
That's absolutely managing an unknown contact. A good example of a personal example, I should say, of managing an unknown contact is I was on a date with my now fiance, and it was like our, I don't know, second, maybe third date. And we were walking through Miami, and I saw a weird homeless dude, and he was on the alley side to me where my fiance was walking. And I just very gently like maneuvered her over to my reaction side so that I would have my right hand free so I could grab my pepper spray or my flashlight or my gun or any of these other things that I had. And the homeless dude, as we walked past him, retched on his shoes. So wasn't really a threat, but that's managing an unknown contact. That's seeing something that is out of the ordinary or out of the routine and reacting accordingly. It doesn't mean that you're throwing down on people being like, show me your fucking hands, show me your hands all the time.
Well, what I think is interesting is that a lot of people, especially in the concealed carry lifestyle, when they're using that term, think that the world is full of people who are just ready to do harm. And your mock experience, both of the ones that you've described so far, nothing happening, no harm done. For mine, it's like completely harmless.
Mm-hmm.
That's most interactions with most strangers, is they're not actually out to harm you.
There's a whole lot of people in this world who are weirdos that you don't need to shoot, but you probably shouldn't talk to.
Yeah.
It's like, so to put muck in a term that I think most people would understand, muck is stranger danger. You know, and you know,
And
all
most
of us
strangers are pretty friendly.
and many strangers are pretty friendly. I wouldn't say most, because I'm slightly more paranoid and jaded than Annette is, but muck is stranger danger. And it's acknowledging that sometimes you don't want to hang out with people and you don't want to like make friends with the guy who I had a great muck not too long ago where really the dog has decided to noisily drink water in the middle of this live cast. So I had a great muck not too long ago where I was walking the dog. Most of mine happen when I walk the dog because I live in a building and I have to walk the dog outside. But I had a great one. I was walking the dog and a very obviously homeless man was walking down the street and his sweatpants had just split open down the front. So his wedding tackle was banging back and forth in between his thighs. And let me tell you, this guy had a big hog, all right? And I remember I'm walking the dog and I'm like, and all I'm thinking is, please don't talk to me. Please don't talk to me. And I can, hey guys, everybody say hi to the dog. Oh, he's such a good boy. Ruger, look, you're famous on the internet. So as a good example of managing that unknown contact, what I'm thinking is I don't want this guy to talk to me. Right. I don't want this guy to interact with me in any way, shape, or form, because as I progress down this decision tree, I'm like, if I have to get into a physical altercation, I don't want to get into a physical altercation with a homeless man whose dick is out. Like I don't.
But you could have sprayed him in the dick with pepper spray. You missed an opportunity.
I couldn't have because I wasn't carrying pepper spray, so I could have shot him in the dick. Which also great opportunities. His pants were, actually, I kind of believe that his pants were split intentionally as a show of dominance. But anyway, so what I did as an example of muck is I positioned the dog as a physical barrier in between him and me and him. And he doesn't know that my dog is super friendly. All he sees is a pit bull.
Right.
Didn't want anything to do with the pit bull, just veered off down a side street. And I was like, who's a good boy? Let's get the fuck out of here. And then we got the fuck out of there.
See, I had a talking muck last night, actually.
Ooh, exciting.
And but like a friendly talking muck. I'm standing outside a bar in New Orleans, as you do, neighborhood dive bar. And a dude comes bicycling up and he's like, hey, you good people? Are you good people? Are you, whatever, to me and a bunch of people out there. And, everybody else in the world who's not about this life is happy to talk to them, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I'm just kind of like standing a little tiny bit back and like, yeah, whatever. And he, can you watch my bike? I'm going to go into that store right over there. Can you watch my bike? It's not even mine, which I thought was the funniest thing I'd heard all day.
Hard pass.
But you know what? Like, so he put his bike down and I didn't do anything but keep standing where I was with a group of people outside a bar. And he did his thing. And then he bought his sausage and came back out and got on his bike and rode off.
Good job watching his getaway vehicle. Good look at.
Nobody came chasing out after him.
That's fair.
And I didn't hear any gunfire.
That doesn't mean much.
Well,
but
the odds are pretty good that he was just some kind of crazy dude who wanted to go buy sausage and didn't have anywhere to lock up his bike.
Who doesn't want to buy sausage in New Orleans at 10 o'clock at night?
It was earlier than that. It was still daylight.
Boring. Not even that interesting. But
that's what muck is.
That is, no, and that really is. And we talk a lot about it, and you'll see me talk about it. You'll see Annette talk about it. Where we talk about it. And it's important for people to understand that it's not like some sort of super high level thing. It's how you go through life. And anyone who isn't a shut-in will at some point have to manage an unknown contact. And so we think, and lots of other smart people think, that there are fucking better ways to do this than others. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is social acceptability. So as a dude, it is perfectly socially acceptable for me to tell somebody to get the fuck away from me.
Right.
Like, back the fuck up. It is a perfectly socially acceptable thing for me to say to another man who is in my space to say, hey, back the fuck up. All right. Mm-hmm. And we use that, obviously, I'm not trying to get this video demonetized or anything, but we can use profanity as a verbal barrier to help drive people away. And there's a huge difference between me saying back the fuck up or back up, motherfucker. One of
Don't
them
do
is
the
a
second
verbal
one.
exclamation point. The other is a challenge.
Right.
So, but now talk to me as a woman. What's that like as a girl? You can't really tell me to get the fuck out of your personal space, can you?
No, because what it does is it starts making you into that bitch.
Right.
You know, it becomes a challenge just because you challenged them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that like for women, the tendency, at least for me and for others that I know, is to be a little bit softer in it. So you can still say no. You can still say, get away, or I can't help you. But you tend to say things more like, hey, I can't do anything for you. I can't help you.
Right.
I like to do the 1,000-yard stare. So like I just look past people.
Got to get that good resting bitch face, right?
Get a little RBF. And I'm told my RBF is
your RBF
phenomenal.
is choice. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen you throw it down at people at SHOT Show, and I was like,
so you get a little RBF, which doesn't. That's just RBF. It's not challenging a person. And when they start trying to talk to you, if you can master that art of not looking at them in a way that's not challenging, like it's not I'm ignoring you. It's just I am looking right past you. Maybe I'm occupied with something else. I'm thinking about something else. So like it's a softer approach than can't help you, buddy. Go away, stay away. It's just I don't see you.
Also, ladies, this is great advice for how to deal with creepy Tinder dates and weirdos in the bar, because that also counts as muck. Actually, I would say, so as someone who was recently single and is now no longer single, muck super applies on like first dates, like on Tinder dates, because that's a really, really unknown contact that you're meeting. And there's a implication when you meet someone from Tinder or Bumble or anything like that, it's going to go in some kind of way. And then you get there and the dude and
you're like, no,
is like a snaggletooth and,
or he just has that vibe.
Oh, that vibe.
Like,
well, talk to me about that. So how important is it to trust your instincts?
Trust them. Not trusting them is what gets you in trouble. The worst that happens when you trust your instincts and you're wrong is you might offend somebody.
Right.
As long as obviously there are better and worse ways to trust your instincts, and just like we talked about, the back the fuck off versus, hey, I'm not interested. But trusting them is what keeps you safe.
Well, and in Western society, is there almost a social penalty for women when they aggressively trust their instincts? Like if I was given, right, exactly. You're that bitch. And then people talk about you like you're a bitch and you don't get invited to cool parties. And there's
you're mean. And it's sad because nobody likes you and everybody wants to be liked, especially girls. And girls are raised to be nice, right? Like that's the thing. Girls are supposed to be nice. You're supposed to be agreeable. You're supposed to be...
Sorry, I just saw the so somebody just posted a comment in the chat that said, opening Tinder line, you can't put a tourniquet on a taint. I
kind of want to do that now. If
you put that on your Tinder profile, take a screenshot of it and send it to me at gunnutsmedia@icloud.com. I will no shit PayPal you $5. All right. But I'm only going to do it for the first 5 people that send it to me because I'm cheap and I will totally do that. $5 to everybody.
I wasn't going to get on Tinder at all, but now I'm going to do it just to do that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So anyway, like back to social penalties for aggressive women.
Yeah, so girls aren't supposed to be aggressive or assertive or anything. And we all know...
You drink some more of that.
Yeah, I'm going to fall over. In this world, in this, in our, corner of the world, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of expected. Like
right.
That's the kind of women who tend to survive in this world.
All of the women I hang out with carry guns and knives, so I'm used to social aggression from there.
Right, and we're not shy about being like, fuck off.
Right. The last time I saw her, she tried to double underhook me. Bitch.
No. You came up to me and started it.
I did no such thing.
You started it.
Anyway.
But.
Continue.
That's the thing. But, in the wider world of people who aren't about that life or whatever, like girls are supposed to be nice. You're not supposed to be rude. You're supposed to give like the nice way of, oh, I'm not really interested, or you just ghost them or something like that. Cause that's much better than being, dude, you're creepy. I'm not gonna.
Sure. Well, and that's what's one of the things that's interesting is that the social consequence factor is really interesting to me because as a dude, there's a lot fewer social consequences for being mean. to people. You know, you can tell someone, you can tell people how you feel without necessarily getting in social trouble for these. So the chat is down. So if you're trying to chat with us, the chat's down right now. And I apologize for that. Oh, it's back. Sometimes live streaming is a fun and entertaining experience. Now, what's interesting, so one of the things I kind of want to pivot to while we're talking about like social consequences and being a girl who carries and stuff like that. One, I'm trying to force feed you booze. Ladies, if you're on a date, and this is solid advice from me, all right? If you're on a date and your date is like, oh, you should drink some more, don't, all right?
That's trouble.
It's different here because I made that shit for her, and it's definitely not roofied because I had one out of the same thing that I made it out of.
Plus, I know you.
Right. Plus, I'm a known entity. So, but kind of what I want to...
Like, you try to get me drunk on a regular basis, but it's trustworthy.
Yeah, no, like, you know, for my friends, and I've said this, if you come visit me in Miami, I'm going to feed you and try to get you drunk. That's what I do. It's in my genes. I'm descended from a long line of English stock where we like to try to feed our guests. You could literally go to my mother's house, tell her you just ate lunch, and you know what she's going to do? Oh, well, let me make something for you.
Like, you need a snack.
No, Mom, I don't. I don't want to be fucking 400 pounds. So, no, we're talking about the social consequences of rejection and things like that. And what's interesting is this podcast could be an advice podcast for women going on dates at this point.
Right.
Like, trust your instincts. It's okay to reject people verbally. And so now here's where our lifestyle, the concealed carry lifestyle, spears off in a left direction. So my fiance is a wonderful human being. Love her very, very much. She is not from this world. Mm-hmm. And there are occasional moments where we have like one of those like, oh yeah, we're kind of space aliens, and not in a bad way. But when we talk about this, one of the examples is what happens when that rejection goes wrong. So in her world, and in the world of many, many women that I know, when that rejection goes wrong, all of a sudden she's in significant physical peril, because despite the fact that you, like, and we'll use us as an example, despite the fact that you are a practitioner of BJJ, you're not carrying a knife right now because you just got off an airplane, but let's say you were, even with all of those other things, I could probably kill you.
Probably.
And you may mortally wound me during the process because no one gets to kill us for free.
At this point, I will probably take you with me.
Which is,
if I have tools,
better than nothing.
Right.
But most women aren't in that situation. Like, and as a relatively smallish dude, I can physically overpower a woman who is up to and past my weight class.
Yep.
Just because of genetics and all of that stuff. So when that rejection goes wrong for most women, all of a sudden there's a significant physical peril component. What happens for you when that goes wrong?
Well, if that goes wrong physically, I have a much larger tool set than the average woman
to
deal with it. Right?
Starting with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Which I'm fairly new to. I'm only, 9 months into BJJ.
Yeah, but a 9-month BJJ practitioner versus somebody who doesn't know their ass from a tea kettle.
Big difference.
It's a huge skill gap.
Especially if my goal is stay alive. Yeah, gonna stay alive. I mean, so when I roll with the blue belts at my gym who weigh about your size and larger, they have trouble passing my guard and they have trouble staying past my guard. And those are BJJ blue belts who've been doing this for years and years and years.
Without strikes,
which is a different thing. But
yeah.
But add strikes to it, and I'm still going to against somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
You're still in way better shape for sure.
And if I have tools with me, which if I'm going on a date, like there will be an arsenal because advice piece number 4, ladies. Carry your fucking guns on your dates. Yes, carry your gun.
And actually,
carry your other stuff. Carry your pepper spray, carry your knife, whatever you normally carry it on the date.
No, and because I'm pause button on that for a moment, because so I was single, I was single for a while. Mm-hmm. And obviously some of my exploits got around. But so I went on a number of dates with women who during the course of the date told me that they had carry permits or, they owned pepper spray or things like that. And even with those women that said they had concealed carry permits, when clothes started coming off, do you know how many of them had guns on them? Zero.
Would be my guess.
Do you know how many times I had a gun on me when clothes started coming off, and I had to come up with a fucking clever way to ditch my gun because this chick didn't know I had a gun, and I was like, oh shit. More often than not. But that's the point, is if you're a woman and you have a carry permit, if you own pepper spray, if you've taken a defensive knife class, carry your shit.
Yes, that's what it's there for. And that is a really dangerous situation you are inserting yourself into, which means...
Are we not doing phrasing anymore?
Never. Well, you know I don't phrase.
That's fair.
But you're going into a situation that you know can go bad, and you're putting yourself in that. So why would you not bring yourself with you?
Right.
And I get it. So, one dude in the chat say, hey, that would be really cool to find out. That's not normal.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's so for me, if I had a girl had pulled her clothes off and she'd had a Glock 43 or a Shield AIWB or a 19, I would have been like, full mast immediately. But
that's not normal.
That's not normal for me to feel that way. Most guys, and here's the problem. When you start dating outside of our specific sort of tribal affiliation, you have the ability to significantly emasculate, especially, you're an elder millennial like me. Most mid to late 30s guys that you're going to run into on Bumble or Tinder, they've never choked anybody recreationally. They've certainly never recreationally tried to stab somebody with a training knife, and
thought it was fun.
And they've definitely never been to a USPSA match and been like, this is the shit.
So all of that, and they still get emasculated by somebody who does it better than them.
Right. Because every guy thinks that he's good at three things: fighting, fucking, and shooting. And driving sometimes. And what's interesting is most of them have never taken classes in any of those things.
So it's bad enough with women who are just like, I carry a gun. Think about what life is like for me. Where I'm like, I probably outfight you and I probably outshoot you. And this is not the kind of thing you really want to talk about in a first date.
Right. So interestingly, Trevor Putnam posted in the chat, some people at best are going to be applied violence compatible partners. And you know what? Since this is apparently turned into the dating advice show, that's true. Again, and I'll reference my fiance. She's not into this life at all. She is perfectly content to let me handle all of the turbo murder aspects of our life. And that's fine. As long as the important aspect of the compatible partnership, your partner doesn't need to go do jujitsu with you, or while you're at jits, they're taking a Muay Thai class. And while you're, shooting USPSA, they're shooting 3-gun. They don't need to do that. But what is important, and this I firmly believe to the soul of my being, is they have to be okay with that life.
Yes.
They have, because if you get kickback like, well, why do you always carry a gun? Or why do you always carry a knife? That's when it actually becomes a problem, when they start pushing back on you at things that you place value on. And that creates real problems in relationships. Not that I'm speaking from personal experience or anything.
Oh, no, not at all.
None whatsoever. So now that we're going to pivot off the dating advice episode, and we're going to talk about cliches, because it's been.
This is actually related, because some of these cliches kind of affect like how you interact with people. And we've been talking about dating, but this is kind of true for like, hey, I'm going to meet some new coworkers I'm friendly with, or girlfriends, or whatever.
And what's interesting is a lot of these cliches, even people who are outside of this lifestyle have interacted with these cliches because they're so prevalent. They're in pop culture and they're in media. Like people who have seen Justified remember that they did the 21-foot rule in Justified. You need to move in a little bit because you're starting to get out of the shot. Yeah, drunk ass. All right.
Come on,
so anyway, but some of these cliches are so common that you've interacted with, that people outside of what we do have interacted with them.
Or if they're like gun people, as in they've got a couple guns in a safe and they go hunting, and maybe they have their CCW, but they've never actually carried.
Right.
Or they carry one that they think they're going somewhere dangerous.
So I've got 3 good ones here, and we're going to try to get to all 3 of these. And we're going to start with this is a general self-defense cliche, and people in the martial arts community have heard this one. When I say martial arts, I mean like, kicking and punching and jujitsu and shit like that, despite my recent article on recoilweb.com called Gunfighting, the American Martial Art. Anyway, but when I talk about martial arts, that's what I'm talking about. So here's the first self-defense cliche we're going to talk to. All fights go to the ground. Now, interestingly, we have a difference of opinion on this because all fights don't go to the ground.
This is true.
But when you're a 130-pound girl, if you're in a physical tussle, is that fight going to go to the ground?
Probably. And it might not even be intentionally going to the ground, but big dude going after you, it's just kind of hard to stay standing when they outweigh you by 30, 50, 100 pounds. And that's absolutely not uncommon. Like, I run across guys who outweigh me by 100 pounds all the time.
Yeah. Well, and if Annette and I were fighting and I wanted the fight to go to the ground, there's nothing that she could do to stop that fight from going to the ground. No. Now, I don't, because Annette is, almost a year in BJJ, and I'm a fairly accomplished striker. So I want to keep things up here where I can do damage with the things I'm good at. But so the idea, and I understand this cliche, and because I understand it because it comes from the sort of untrained tussle that you see. Like when you watch
accidentally to the ground.
Right. You watch World Star videos and shit like that. Those fights end up on the ground. They don't end up on the ground because either of the practitioners are particularly skilled on the ground. They end up on the ground because they suck at fighting.
Right.
There was a video, and everybody probably saw this, of a cholo throwdown in a parking garage. Can I say cholo? Anyway, we just did. We said it twice.
He said it.
I did, yeah. So there was that video, and you probably saw it, where the dude starts off fighting one guy. That guy fucks off, and then the other dude comes up, takes off his shirt, and the younger...
And the fight's going to go when the shirt comes off. That's a sign.
So, and then the younger man shoots a fairly shitty double leg, but gets both hooks in, stands up, and drops the elder cholo, and the back of his head makes that sound on the concrete. Fight's over.
By the way, one reason to learn how to fight on the ground is to control. It's like if you're going to get taken to the ground, and I believe that somebody my size is going to,
right,
I should be able to control that down to the ground so I don't hopefully do that.
Go night-night.
Or end up in a terrible position as soon as I'm on the ground. If I'm going to the ground and I can get into guard right away, life is pretty good.
Right. And that's sort of the point. So this cliche of all fights go to the ground, it's based on unskilled participants just sort of fucking around.
Right.
So if you have someone who's a skilled striker, they can prevent that fight, especially if they've got a little bit of clinch. And I'm going to say this, if you are a skilled striker, you need to spend time training the clinch, because training the clinch is what keeps you from having that fight go to the ground. All right. Because I will say this, a better version of that cliche will be all fights go to the clinch. Like I would say like 99, like unless you starch a dude with a really good straight shot or a kick or something like that,
I can agree with
most fights are going to end up in some form of a clinch.
The interesting thing about that is if I can get into an actual clinch, I have a better chance of staying on my feet, even at my size.
Absolutely.
Because if I can get in to somebody, they're not keeping me at a distance to strike. If I can get all the way in, I can use you to stay up because I did the
I'm going to lean off of you during the clinch. So I would say that I would say all fights don't go to the ground. A lot of fights do. More fights go into the clinch than go onto the ground.
But when you go to the ground, you're in a clinch.
Yeah, 100%. Now you're murder hugging on the floor. And that's not a place and honestly, that's not a place you want to be.
No.
Unless, you're a BJJ brown belt and the other guy is, Cholo McBaggins from down the street.
Ground is not, I'm not saying that ground is a good place to go, even though I like fighting from the ground. It's just that it's inevitable in a lot of ways for me. Like if somebody wants to put me on the ground, even in a clinch, they're going to put me on the ground.
Yeah. And
all I had to do is sit down.
Well,
or just like fall over and I'm on the ground.
So the takeaway from this is, if you're a girl, go take Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Or find something
Wrestling.
that teaches you ground fighting, because you're gonna end up there.
Also, honestly, I'm a huge fan of American wrestling as a martial art.
It is great.
I've had my ass kicked by so many wrestlers. It's not even funny. American wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, probably the best things that you can do for ground fighting.
Yep.
If you really want to get deep into like how to fight out of the clinch, Muay Thai. Muay Thai is really great for the clinch. One pause on Muay Thai: in a weapons-based environment, Muay Thai really emphasizes a neck control. In a weapons-based environment, which is the world that we deal with, neck control is not great.
Yeah.
And the reason neck control is not great is, go ahead and grab my neck. Stab. Right.
I was like,
so you can grab the fuck out of my neck, and
but
that
I really
doesn't
need
stop.
limb control.
But you need a limb control. All right. So, I didn't mean to touch your boob, by the way. Sorry about that. So today on the live stream, I stabbed Annette in the boob with a fake knife, and she tried to choke me a little bit. Anyway, but I just want to throw that caveat about Muay Thai, because Muay Thai is great about clinch fighting, but an emphasis on neck control, not as good, or head control, whatever you want to call it, not as good as an emphasis on wrist control. And you need, in a weapons-based environment, this is something
control
that
limbs.
Craig Douglas teaches in Edge Weapons Overview?
EWO covers it, Edge Weapon Overview,
ECQC covers it.
And I think the entire Shivworks Collective probably gets at that point at some point.
Limb control is really important when you're doing that sort of fighting, because obviously these are what I use to shoot you and stab you and all of that stuff. And what's funny is, like, Annette is smaller than I am. So grab my wrist. All right.
Limb control is
give me a two-handed limb control here. All right. If I'm trying to stab her now, I'm a lot stronger than Annette, and I can't do it because she's got a two-handed limb control. All right. So limb control, super important. Just how many times do you think you'll be engaged? So we have an interesting question.
Assume.
How many times do you think you'll be engaged in a weapons-based environment? The average person, 0. But
I would assume that that's a potential, because that's what people do.
I don't carry a gun because I'm a fucking optimist either.
Mm-hmm.
So if I am preparing myself for this fight, right? Everyone wants to imagine that their gunfight is going to be a mugger jumps out 30 feet away with a knife and says, "Hey, give me your money." See, that's not, maybe that's how it's going to go.
But there's a lot of other ways it can go.
Or maybe I'm going to have a dude panhandle me from a blind spot and pull out a razor blade 2 feet away, and I'm going to have to limb control and shoot him from the thumb pectoral index. Or maybe I'm going to get into a gunfight in a movie theater with an active shooter. And you need, and in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, if you have accepted the fact that the world is a dangerous enough place that you should carry a gun, that you should take jujitsu, that you should carry a knife, why not accept that it's a dangerous enough place that you need to be a bad motherfucker?
Right. I have 2 comments in response to some of the things we're seeing in live chat.
Ahead.
One is, I know Craig goes to the West Coast because he's definitely in New Mexico every year.
Oh, read the comment first so people...
Okay, sorry. Somebody said that Craig Douglas never comes to the West Coast that I know of. We don't have anyone like him out this way. He was actually just in San Francisco doing Edge Weapon Overview. I know he goes to New Mexico every year.
Yep.
Albuquerque has a great Shivworks group. I'm pretty sure he's in Phoenix every year. So he does come out there. Keep an eye on his schedule. The other thing is, Ryan says, what's the chances of knife fighting in the USA? What I'll say is, any fight that I get into the USA is going to be a knife fight.
Fact. An interesting point. If you carry a gun or a knife, any fight you get into by default is now a gunfight or a knife fight. Even if that never comes into play, you have to take that into account, which is, we're going to do another cliche here in a minute, but I want to sidebar on this. There is a reason why, despite the fact that I did, and we were talking about this earlier, and it's not something I talk about a lot, but I used to do competition martial arts at a fairly high level. I'm a fairly accomplished striker. I like punching people. It's fun, especially in a controlled environment where we're not actually trying to kill each other and all that stuff, but we're definitely doing our damnedest to kick the other guy into unconsciousness.
As you do.
As an adult now, despite any skill and training I have, go out of my way to avoid recreational fisticuffs, because a bar fight where I'm carrying, if I'm in a state where it's legal to carry in bars, which is many, and I'm not drinking, which then I'm carrying, a bar fight is now a gunfight, because I can get clipped with a shot, go down, my shirt flies up, that guy sees a gun and goes for my gun. We are now in a deadly force situation. Like, full stop, pause. And that's true if you're carrying a fucking knife or anything like that. Any fight that you get into, it has the potential to be, even if it starts as just like, hey, we're going to throw hands, it has the potential to become a deadly force situation, which is why, going back to Muck, what percentage of fights do you win that never happen?
All of them. Every single one.
Everyone. I have been called a coward and a bitch and a pussy and all of the names that you can imagine more times than you can possibly count. And you know what didn't happen in any of those situations? Nobody got shot.
Nobody got
stabbed. I got called some mean names, and then I got in my car and went home. And then I was like, the guy was really mean to me on the internet. But he could have died. So it balances out. And that's kind of that thing that you don't understand, is that if you carry a gun, if you carry any sort of deadly tool in the world,
you are in a weapons-based environment because you brought the weapon to the fight.
It doesn't matter who brought the weapon. You could have brought it. The other guy could have brought it. Any fight that you get into is a gunfight. It's a knife fight. It has the potential to become one of these things, because all that person has to do is realize that you're carrying. And let me tell you, when you're grappling with somebody, they're going to figure out you got a gun. Yeah, your concealment, no one's concealment is that good for when you're murder hugging someone and they're like, what's that? Oh shit, limb control. Yeah. So, all right, we're going to do another cliche because you eventually have to catch a flight.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. All right.
But it's so warm here.
It's so nice. All right. So our next cliche is a fun one. And this is from, this is my favorite. There's no timers in a gunfight.
There sure are.
Well, maybe there isn't an audible shooter ready. Stand by.
Unless you go to Walmart. Getting out of the car in Walmart is a beep.
Getting out of the car. Yeah. Oh, that's fair. Getting out of the car at Walmart is absolutely a beep. But so the idea behind this cliche is it was created to denigrate competition shooters, and be like, oh, bloody blah competition. And hang on. I have a text from my fiance that I should probably read real quick.
Well, I'll talk about it. So we talk about there's no timers in a gunfight because there's no, nobody's got a shot clock with them or anything else. But here's the problem. That other guy is going to work at a specific speed, right? He's going to do something to you at some time. And, actually somebody just said gunfights have an unknown par time, and that's absolutely true.
Who said that? That guy's a smart motherfucker.
He is.
I'm probably friends with that guy. All right. So anyway, continue.
So at some point, he's going to do something to you, and you need to get work done before that. The problem is you don't know what that time is. And if you don't know what that time is, it behooves you to go as fast as you can, right? Because you're trying to beat a clock.
My dear late friend Todd Green used to say, speed is a tactic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. And that's the thing. So like the whole idea of no timers in a gunfight was created to denigrate competition shooters who practice based off a time-based standard.
You're trying to get as fast as possible at the thing they do.
Right, exactly. And they're like, oh, well, no one's going to be there with a shot timer when the actual fight goes up. And I have two responses to that, one of which agrees with yours, is that there is a timer in a gunfight. You just can't hear it. And you have no idea when it's going to stop. And the other comment I have on that is, if you can't tell the difference between a gunfight and a shooting competition, you don't have any business doing either.
This is true.
Because that's the whole idea of creating training scars and stuff like that. A training scar, another one of my favorite cliches.
I will give you one in there too.
I will give you an example. I'll give you an example of a training scar. So I have an actual training scar, and it's from when I shoot. like when I'm out on the range practicing, when I shoot, I'll fire whatever drill it is that I've set up to fire. And then I'll eject my magazine, look at the rounds that I have left in the magazine and put it back in, and then decock and holster and go back to work. That's borderline on a training scar, because sometimes I'll do it without thinking about it. And I won't even look at the magazine. I'll just be like, and then I'll kind of stand there and be like, what in the fuck did I do that for? But it's not so bad a training scar that I can't turn it off, because I've never been in the middle of a pressured environment where people are watching me and I have psychological stress and I've been like, shoot, 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 shoot. I've never, ever done that. So yes, you can create training scars and you can absolutely create bad habits. And I'm not trying to denigrate that at all, but you're also probably smart enough to figure out that you're not at a USPSA match and someone's trying to murder you. And if you're not smart, if you're that guy and you're not smart enough to tell the difference between an IDPA stage and somebody trying to fucking kill you,
maybe you shouldn't carry the gun.
Maybe just stay home. Just go to sleep. Be done. Be done. So,
all right, I got a couple of folks that made comments about, accuracy is more important than speed. And I have to go, well, first of all, I do need a drink. You're right. Because this is something that comes up a lot.
Here we go.
Better to make the hit than to be fast. Well, my shooting mentor, Bruce Gray, will tell you there is no necessary trade-off between speed and accuracy. You can be really fast and really accurate. You don't have to get less accurate as you get faster, because you know what? It takes the same amount of time to shoot a miss as to shoot a hit.
But this is how I was taught to shoot accurate hits.
That's because you shot fucking bullseye.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I can do that pretty fucking fast now.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, I can shoot. If I am actually paying attention to my shooting, I can get the same hits at speed as I do slow.
Well, and let's talk about fast. So Los Angeles police. So everyone loves to shit on cops for how, they don't hit anything when they shoot.
LAPD manages.
LAPD hits the fuck out of people. LAPD's got like a 90%. So LAPD department wide has like an 80% hit rate. That's fucking good. LAPD Metro Division, which includes SWAT and like their high-speed motherfuckers, has like a 95% hit rate.
Which is legit. Very.
LAPD Metro teaches a 0.35 to 0.5 second split time between shots. Now, to a USPSA shooter who draws and fires 6 shots on a bill drill with 0.18 splits, 0.35 may seem slow, but 0.35 is faster than that, So to give you guys out in TV land an idea of how fast 0.35 is, think about grabbing your glass as fast as you can. The time it takes for your brain to send the signal to your fingers to grab this glass in front of you is about 0.3 seconds. All right. It's possible for people to shoot. And the reason why LAPD uses that is I can shoot rounds accurately at 0.35, 0.4, 0.5 seconds
all day
long and process the information that I'm getting.
Yep.
When you do a bill drill and you're going to want to shoot a sub 2 bill drill, do you draw and are you committed all 6 of those shots?
I mean, you shoot. You just shoot that bill drill. You're
right.
not looking at everything that's happening all the time. You're processing because you're looking at your sights and working your trigger.
But looking at your sights a little bit.
But to shoot a bill drill at sub 2, you're just ripping.
Right.
You've committed to doing that shooting as soon as you've decided to draw.
And yet, so at that 0.35, 0.5 split pace that we're talking about, you're still shooting fast. It's like 0.4 like a 0.4 split to the average dickhead is just, oh, Jesus, how's he shooting this gun?
It's like this.
Yeah. And you and I can shoot a gun accurately at that pace pretty much all day long.
It's
and get
like
good effect on target.
It's like a relaxing pace.
Without outrunning your sights, without not being able to process the information you're getting downrange, which goes back to that timer in a gunfight, all right? There isn't a timer in a gunfight in the sense that someone's standing there with a metronome.
Shooter ready?
Stand by. Beep. That doesn't happen in a gunfight, but there are all sorts of time standards in a gunfight, whether it's the other guy trying to kill you or the part time of you not outrunning your sights. So to use NRA Action Pistol, Bianchi Cup is an example. It's shot on turning targets. And you know in your head that target's going to go away after a certain amount of time. And you're dealing with that par time in your head, because if you break a shot as the target turns and you get you get the 4-inch long oblong hit on that, guess what?
Fucked.
No points.
You're fucked.
Get fucked. So,
and it might erase some of your points.
It might actually erase. I've had that happen. So yes, there are no timers in a gunfight, but it's also a fucking competition, and the stakes are real high, guys.
And it's really nice to be able to get your gun out really fast and to be able to shoot at a pace that is fast enough to get the job done, that you can pay attention to. But that doesn't mean it has to be slow. It is possible to train that at a speed that seems really fast.
All right, I'm going to let you read the last cliche while I put more tequila in my cup, because I am not getting on a plane and I don't have to drive anywhere.
Oh, I'm not driving either. I'm going to pour myself onto a plane and sleep.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's going to make the middle seat in the middle section of this plane much more pleasant.
You've got to get pre-check.
Well, it's not even pre-check. It's that I'm flying basic economy in American, which means,
I'm just sad for you right now.
I don't have status like you.
Well, you also, I flew 110,000 miles all domestic last year, so
God.
I don't have a social life either.
All right. So the next cliche we've got is sheep, dog.
No. That wasn't the one.
No.
God almighty.
Oh, come on. I'm sorry.
Number 4.
Number 4. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. You motherfucker. I hate that fucking thing.
It's my favorite. So
fucking hate that shit.
I'm just going to say this. Slow is not fast and will never be fast, because slow is slow.
Slow is slow. Smooth is smooth. Fast is fast. You can be fast and smooth. You can be fast and jerky. There are some really fast motherfucking shooters who look like a fucking mess.
So my BJ Norris is a friend of mine, and I've known him since he was actually not old enough to buy a beer. He's still barely old enough to buy a beer, despite the fact that he's got like 8 kids. But anyway, so BJ once won Steel Challenge, and he shot under a 90-second run, which, if you don't know, is fucking stupid fast.
Kind of amazing.
With an iron sight gun. And I asked him, I was like, did you feel just like angels were singing and all that shit? And he says to me, he's like, no, I hacked my way through that. Like, I beat it up like a hatchet. So you can be slow and smooth, and you can be fast and jerky, and you can be fast and smooth, and you can be slow and jerky, and you can just be smooth and smooth. But where did the idea, so what truth, because all of these cliches are based on a little bit of truth.
Right.
Where's the truth in this one, Annette?
So there is, especially when you're first learning how to shoot a gun or do anything mechanical, there is a factor where you just don't know what you're doing. Right. So you're just like, where do my hands go? What do they do?
Right.
I'm going to draw a gun. I have to do this with my hands. I have to go get my gun. It has to come out. And it's 18 different steps, and you're thinking about it in terms of 18 different steps.
What you guys can't see is when she said, I have to go get my gun, she has a slight offset on her AIWB carry. She literally put her hand exactly where the butt of her gun would have been. I was like, God damn, son. All right, this is how we're doing this today. It's like a drink
That's where my gun goes.
Anyway, continue.
So when you're really new at this, then it's like 18 steps, and you think about each one. So there's a lot of jerkiness that's about processing what you're doing. As soon as you start flowing those steps together, and you don't have to think about each one separately, you can think about them in chunks and things like that. That will smooth it out, because you're not stopping. Okay, I have to clear my cover garment. I have to put my hand on my gun. It has to come out. It has to do this, blah, blah, blah. You're like, I'm going to get my hand on my gun, and I'm going to push it out. That's smoother. It's going to naturally be faster.
Right.
However, that's not how you get faster. You get faster by doing things like decreasing par times and blah, 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 blah.
Annette, what's a decreasing par time?
A decreasing par time is, so when we talk about dry fire, which of course is the world that I spend a lot of time in, is...
She wrote a book. It's on Amazon. Wait.
It's called The Dry Fire Primer.
Is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Get it on your fucking Kindles or whatever.
You can get a paper copy now on Amazon. I don't know. Some people like them. It's a thing. You can also buy signed copies directly from me. Just saying. Dryfireprimer.blastingbeauty.com.
Dryfireprimer.blastingbeauty.com. She's despite the fact that I've had a lot more to drink than her, she's way tipsier than me right now.
You outweigh me by how much?
30, 40 pounds. Also, I have the liver of a 300-pound man.
And I have the liver of somebody who...
An 8-year-old girl.
True.
So anyway, what's a decreasing part-time?
So we have a time in which things get done, right? Like you do an action and it takes a certain amount of time. Decreasing part-times is saying, I'm going to do... Will you stop?
I'm sorry, I almost got it. Continue. There's a gnat flying around right now. This is the best podcast ever. So anyway, decreasing part-time.
So decreasing part-time is taking that time in which you do things and saying, I'm going to do it in a smaller amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to set a timer that is less than the amount of time it takes me to do something. And I'm going to keep working it until that's the time I do it. And then I'm going to drop it again.
So like, let's say I'm trying to get a 1-second draw from concealment so I can be famous on Instagram. All right.
Dude, a 1-second draw ain't going to make you famous anymore.
I know.
It's gotten to be like kind of easy.
Well, first off, a 1-second draw has gotten to be kind of easy. Now, like you got to be like in the 0.8s if you want to be like close to famous. So let's say I want to be
dry fire draw is like 0.65 right now.
Okay, but nobody cares about dry fire. Caring about dry fire is like caring about a turbo pin. I'm kidding, Gabe. I'm just kidding.
Okay, says the fast coin holder.
Exactly. Duh. Let me go get it. Hang on, I'll put it on the camera. No, that's the running gag. But anyway, so if I'm doing a decreasing part-time and I want to get a 1-second draw because I want to be Instagram's almost famous,
it's like bare minimum.
I'm going to start at, a 1.5, a time I know I can. Okay,
or
by the
2,
way.
Or whatever it is.
By the way, a 1.5, let's be real. If you can do a 1.5 draw from concealment, you're better than 99% of gun owners in the world.
If you can,
I would say you're better than 99.5% of gun owners in the world.
If you have a 2.0 draw from concealment, I'd be pretty happy. I wouldn't work my draw anymore. I would work on other things.
Yeah, good. So we're going to sidebar, as we've done many times tonight or this afternoon. By the way, you know how you can tell you're really good friends with somebody? You never finish one conversation because one of you gets excited about a sidebar that you could have off that conversation. Like, but
that's been the entire afternoon I've been here.
Literally the whole afternoon because we're ridiculous. But as a sidebar to that, if you don't want to make this your life, like, look, and I've said this on primary and secondary podcasts and some other places, I have sacrificed a ton for this life, more than other people have. I've lost friendships and relationships and job opportunities and a lot of other things to get me to this point where I am, where now this is my life and it is my career. And that's not for everyone.
Nope.
And as a matter of fact,
it's not for
I
most
wouldn't
people.
recommend it for anyone because I've lost friendships and job opportunities and relationships for this lifestyle where I carry a gun every day and I'm so dedicated to the practice of carrying this gun that things take priority that shouldn't take priority.
I'm at jujitsu 2-3 times a week.
Right.
That takes a lot of time out of your potential social life.
Let me tell you, 15 minutes of dry fire every night takes time out of your social life. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, it's just 15 minutes, but it's not.
No.
Because what it is it's 15 minutes from the time I put my belt on and I have my gun set up and I have my mags loaded with dummy rounds and all of these other things. So it's really like 30 minutes. And then
that's why you read my book. We can shorten that down a little bit.
A little bit, probably.
But not much. But it's also every night. So like you go out on a date or you go out with your buddies and guess what? You get home at 10, 10:30, 11. And if you haven't dry fired that day,
not doing it.
You don't.
I'm not. I'm
fucking I have.
Okay. And I have too. Actually, I've dry fired after bad dates because I need to relieve tension. Anyway.
I didn't need to know that. I'm just saying.
So here's so I got an interesting question. How did I lose friendships? So some people aren't down with what we do. And I have friends who are, we've talked about this a little. I've talked about this a little bit. I'm not like a super conservative dude, despite the fact that I'm in the military and like guns, right? Mm-hmm. Like you would think if you look like, okay, white guy in the military likes guns. Obviously I must be like a hardcore Republican. But where I've lost friendships is I've had friends who are very much on the other side of that political aisle. So I've had like very, liberal, whatever friends. And when they discover the level of commitment I have to this, they're like, I don't really want to hang out with you because your ability to kill people is more important than going out and having beers tonight. And I'm like, but not every night. Some nights I want to go out and have beers, but some nights I need to train because I have a match or because I have a thing or I'm teaching a class that weekend.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we talk about when we talk about this life is like, if I have a class that I'm teaching and I'm teaching a class to some deploying Air Force troops. So next weekend, I'm teaching a class to some deploying Air Force troops. Before that class, I'm going to spend, instead of 15 minutes, I'm going to spend 2 hours going over my lesson plan, going over the dry fire things I want to teach them because this life is important to me. And, if someone was like, hey, can you go out and get drinks tonight? I can't
work
because I need to do this. And my ability to train people for what could be the worst day of their life is more important to me than having a beer.
Yeah.
And that's how you lose friendships over this life.
The other thing that loses them is like, so I train a lot, both jujitsu and shooting. That means I'm out of town a lot of weekends. So it's hard to have local friends when you're never around when they're not working.
Right. Also, like my best friends live in fucking other states, which sucks.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a whole other thing. But that's one of the reasons I go train is that I can go take classes with them. But my local friends, they're like, well, you're never around on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Because I'm joking.
Because, yeah. And then, they're like, oh, so come over on a weeknight for dinner. Like, we'll go out, get dinner or whatever. I'm like, yeah, it's jujitsu night. It's like Tuesday, Thursdays. I do jujitsu. I'm here to choke people out. I mean, if you want to come with me, that's cool, but that's not what normal people do.
And this is an important thing. I'm a big fan of mixed martial arts. And there's a recognition that the sort of people who are into this kind of stuff, we're not really normal people. It's sort of like the difference between, I like football. I love watching football on Sundays.
But do you play fantasy?
I play fantasy football.
How many leagues?
Just the one. I run it.
See? Normal person.
But no. Fantasy football is relatively normal because that's just gambling.
Yeah,
it's legalized gambling.
One league.
But here's what I don't do. I don't play in a semi-pro recreational football league because I love football so much.
And you don't do 6 fantasy leagues because that's your hobby during football season.
Weird. Yeah. So, and that's the thing is that this lifestyle is just as weird and compulsive as other hobbies that can take away from stuff. The difference is if you meet somebody who plays in 6 fantasy football leagues, you're going to be like, well, that's weird. If you meet somebody who carries a gun, 2 knives every day and does Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu 3 days a week and does endurance-based strength training every day so that his VO2 max is higher when he's in a fucking ground fight.
That's weird.
It's weird. And it is kind of weird. So I think the important lesson from this podcast is find other weirdos like you and be friends with those people because that way you don't feel like quite a weirdo. So, Annette, you have to get on an airplane here pretty soon. So we're going to do one last cliche before you go. And this is the one that you fucked up and read that we weren't going to do, but you read it.
And there's actually a lot about that one that gets complicated.
God, there's a lot of political conversation going on in the comments right now. You know what? Not reading it. Annette, let me ask you a question. And I don't mean this in the sense, are you a canine? But are you a sheepdog? No. But my sheepdog, but my protecting the flock.
No. So like most of what I do this for is for me and for the people that I love.
So your cat?
Yeah, basically. I mean, if you go after my cat, I will John Wick you. Just putting that out there.
I'm really trying to think of a cat-based pun. Anyway,
so most of what I do this for is for me,
right,
personally, and for the people that I love and who love me.
And also most of the people that you love are fucking gangsters too, so
they would be really pissed off if I managed to get myself killed in an attack,
right?
Like that's
I was hypothetically out to dinner once with some of our mutual friends after a class, and we were discussing like what would happen in an active shooter event in this restaurant, and we were like,
Rock, paper, scissors.
No. They would fish at least 3 bullets out of that person, and it would be, oh, well, that's Caleb's, that's so-and-so's, that's so-and-so's. So, yes,
Yeah.
but you're not a sheepdog because you're not protecting any sort of mythical flock or herd or anything like that.
Now, I might get involved in, say, an active shooter situation or something else where other people outside of my circle are at risk, but that's because ultimately I am at risk while the active killer is going after these other dudes.
And so we talked about this. I actually talked about this yesterday or 2 days ago on the video I filmed about mass shooting response and that sort of stuff. And it's important to understand. And I want to thank Edward Hutchins for the super chat. We appreciate that a lot, man. But you have to know whether you're a high responder or a low responder.
Right.
And so the whole sheepdog thing. All right, we're going to back this up. So first off, fuck Dave Grossman. Because he started this whole idea of like the noble warrior protecting the flock. And I get that. All right. That's cool in theory. But the problem is that it's been bastardized and spewed out. Like, so there's so many people who, call themselves a sheepdog, and it's an okay mentality, but a lot of these people don't know what flock they're protecting.
And there's a lot of implications involved in being the sheepdog where you need a very high level of skill to make it work.
So, and I said this in my stream the other day. So a high responder versus a low responder. What's a low responder?
So a low responder is you see something go down and you're like, cool.
Deuces. Not my problem.
Right.
And you know what? There's
That's
nothing
cool.
wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
That's actually probably the smarter thing to do.
It really is.
I'm just saying. I kind of wish I were still a low responder.
And one of the interesting things is the higher skilled you become, the more likely you are to wish you were a low responder, but you're become a high responder because you understand you can actually make a difference.
If not me, then who?
Right. But then that's where you also sort of come into the Dunning-Kruger, where lots of people think they're skilled. And these are they are high responders. That's how they were wired by God Almighty. So a high responder is someone who's like, I cannot,
I can't let this happen. I must stop.
I've got to do something.
I need to get into this.
And the biggest takeaway quote from the last video I did was, a high responder with low skills endangers everyone around them.
Yes.
Everyone around them. And if you're a high responder, if you're the sort of person that feels like I want to get involved, I need to help this person, I'm a sheepdog. And that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with that. The idea behind I am a sheepdog is inherently noble, and I laud that.
You're here to save the world. You're here to keep people from dying.
And that's cool. If you have that idea, also, there are some, you could go down to your local recruiting office or your police department and be like, I want to help people. That's probably the best way to get that out of your system, because just walking around as a person, not great. But if you believe that, if you feel like you're a sheepdog, identify your flock. All right.
Who are you actually going to put everything on the line for? Because it is everything.
It absolutely is. It's your life, your liberty, your freedom,
your money,
all of it. So I would stack countless bodies to defend my fiance, right? I would shoot my way out. But here's the thing, as a sheepdog, thank you to Fake Information for the donation as well for the cheap ammo. We appreciate that. But as a person who carries a gun and who's interested in self-defense, if I'm in a mall and there's an active shooter, my first and primary goal, and this is something that I think Greg Ellifritz was just talking about, is to get my immediate flock. That would be my fiance, my future wife, and anybody that I love and care about out of that situation. And if I encounter the active shooter on my way to the exit, well, he's gonna die. Mm-hmm. At the very least, he is going to die, and he is not going, and he may take me with me, but no one gets to kill us for free.
Yes. So
that's if you want to be a sheepdog, you need to know who your flock is. Would I kill somebody for Annette? Of course I would. Anybody that comes into my home that I make fajitas for and feed booze to, you're on the list. But if you believe in your heart that you're a sheepdog, a defender, you need to know who you're willing to make that choice for. And let me ask you, how important do you think it is for a person to make that choice now?
You got to do it now. Like right now, you need to think about that, because when the balloon goes up, the shit goes down. You don't have time to think about it.
No.
And you might make the wrong decision if you have not thought about it before. You might not know where your skill level is if you're able to address the situation in a way that actually makes it any better. You may not have figured out who your flock is. You may not have figured out who suffers if everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
So, it's a little different for me. I have friends. I have wonderful friends.
We would all be very upset if you died.
Yes.
There would be some like legitimate, like John, like me and Jack would be like, war!
Yeah, probably.
For sure.
But it's a little different. Like, I don't have kids.
Right.
So, like what I have to live for is different from what other people have to live for.
For sure.
And making that decision today lets me make sure that the people I love are adequately taken care of and understood and everything else. Because what if I had kids and I didn't have skill and I went barreling into an active shooter situation and got myself killed?
Now your kids need a mom.
And I didn't, because I didn't think about it.
So, and how important is it as well to reevaluate that situation as your life changes? Because fucking A, my life has changed a lot in the last 5 years. I was a single man with, just YOLO swaggins.
And we would all be very sad and upset and probably go to war if you died.
Right. But
ultimately,
also, if like I got into a wild gunfight with an active shooter and got popped, most of my friends would be like, he went out the way he wanted to go.
That was a pretty good way to go, because you probably killed him on your way out.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
We're good with that.
And now, I'm engaged. I have a lot of shit going on in my life. Like, my life's different.
Yep.
How is that going to affect how I react in a violent situation? And again, you have to make that decision now.
Right.
This is, and the last on the competition versus tactical. Oh, well, in a real gunfight, you won't get a pre-stage walkthrough. Bullshit.
Of course.
Every day is your walkthrough.
Mm-hmm. Don't tell me you don't know how to get out of your favorite restaurant.
If you don't, you probably should.
And you probably shouldn't respond to any sort of violent event because you're not prepared for it.
Can you walk? Do you know the angles in your house?
Absolutely. Dude, I know where the safe backstop in my house. I have a berm next to my place, and I know where to set up and where to wait for somebody to get to shoot into the berm.
How many people don't know that? So, and that's, and this is actually what we're probably going to wrap up on here, because you definitely got to get on pretty soon. But one of the criticisms that you get of competition shooting from the tactical people is you don't get a walkthrough in real life. Bullshit. You know what? Every day is a walkthrough. If you don't know the layout of your house by heart and know the sight angles, know what directions are safe if you fuck up and miss, you're wasting time. There's your walkthrough right there. If you don't know, like, and look, you don't need to be walking through your everyday life being like, I could shoot somebody over here. I could shoot somebody over here. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is taking those quiet moments. All right. Tonight you're going to sit down, you're going to watch Jeopardy, and you're going to fuck around on your phone for 30 minutes before you go to bed. All right. What are you doing in those 30 minutes? Think about your favorite place. Think about somewhere you go all the time. Think about the angles. Think about the exits. Think about your walkthrough. And most importantly, think about what you would do and what you're willing to risk, because that's your walkthrough. Your walkthrough isn't a stage diagram. Your walkthrough is saying, what line will not be crossed?
Yep.
Where do I go to guns? Where do I go to violence to defend myself, to defend people I care about?
Who do I care about? When am I going? What can I not live with? Because it's not just about what can I live with. It's what can I not live with? At this point, I am way more likely to get to insert myself into an active killer situation because I'm not sure I can live with not. I mean,
please don't, because we would all prefer you to stay around.
But but I know the other thing that I think about is I know what my skill level is. Right. I know what I'm able to do. So if I know if I have that shot or not, and I know how to stay safe with it,
then I can take it.
Then I'll take it.
That's the last thing. Know your skills.
Yeah.
Know your sight angles. Do your walkthroughs of your house. Know your skills.
Can you make that shot across your house?
Can you make a 7-yard hostage rescue shot? I know I can.
I can. But you should know that.
Like, I know that, and that's the thing. Have I ever had to take a 7-yard shot on with someone holding someone I cared about hostage? No. Do I know that I have the mechanical skill to make a shot on an obscured partial target under psychological stress at 7 yards?
Yes.
That helps. No greater gunfighter than Jim Cirillo, who has probably killed more people than cancer, was a huge advocate of competition as a way to train.
It struck me so I did this session at TACCON, while circling all the way back to the beginning of this, about the evolution of modern firearms training. And one of the things that really stuck with me with that is almost every bad motherfucker who has had something to say about how to teach people how to use guns shot competitively.
Wide Earp shot competitively.
I mean, and we're not just talking like IPSC, USPSA, IDPA. They shot bullseye. They shot PPC.
Fucking PPC was the shit back in the day.
And PPC is hard technical shooting, and it's not like fast running around shooting at all.
NRA Action Pistol, which is of the action-oriented events, has the least amount of action and the highest level of technical difficulty, was designed originally for cops. Gunfighting. Weird. All right, guys. We're going to put Annette on a plane. Thank you, everyone.
Annette on a plane.
She's fine. I'm going to walk the dog. I'm great. I've had way more to drink. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We hope to do this again sometime in the future.
Right. We will.
It's so nice to have Annette actually here in person so we don't have to deal with streaming. But I'm Caleb Giddings. Thanks for watching. And do you know my tagline?
This feels like a pop quiz.
So we're going to try this again because she's not delivered my tagline before since this is streaming on my YouTube channel. But I'm Caleb Giddings. Thanks for watching. And remember,
run your gun, not your mouth.
Good night.
That went pretty good.
That actually went